we have with us somebody who has had a dream run so far. All India ranks at both IPCC and final CA levels, and then she has managed to bag one of the best opportunities which a freshly qualified CA can. She's been working with the Aditya Birla Group under the flagship leadership program since almost 3 years now. Thanks a lot, Sonakshi, for agreeing to do this. I'm sure all our viewers and myself will have lots of things to take back from this conversation.
Thank you, Harshit, for such a warm introduction. So in fact, I'm glad to be hosted here. So yeah, thanks for inviting me.
All right. So let's dive straight into the questions.
Sure.
The first one, Sonakshi, if you can just briefly take us through your academic journey so far. How were you as a student, still so brilliant?
No, that's really sweet of you. But just to take you through my academic journey, so being born and brought up in Mumbai, my school and colleges, everything revolved in Mumbai itself. So I studied at Bombay Scottish School up to 10th standard, which was the ICSE board. Thereafter, I opted for commerce, and then I studied at R.N. Podar School, which was the CBSE board. And thereafter, the decision to pursue CA. So I pursued BCom along with Chartered Accountancy. And I studied BCom at Narsi Monji College of Commerce and Economics, which is again in Mumbai. And of course, pursued CA simultaneously. So 1 year after my graduation, I also qualified my CA exams and passed out in May 2018. So this was, what my schooling and college looked like. And two notable achievements from this journey, which I think I will, really cherish forever, was probably in 12th when I was lucky enough to top the state at the CBSE board examinations. And of course, the second one being securing a rank at the CA examinations. So a special thanks to my parents, my brother, teachers, friends, and, all well-wishers for making this possible. So these are two things which will really stay with me forever. And of course, thanks to everyone on this journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Sonakshi, if we can briefly cover about your articleship experience, was it from a mid-sized firm or one of the big fours, and what all were the areas which you get exposed to during your articleship days?
Sure. So I chose to do an articleship from a mid-sized firm, C. Agarwal and Company, which was in Mumbai itself. And being a mid-sized firm, I wasn't restricted to one particular area. So I got a good amount of exposure in different areas, be it a little bit of audit, a little bit of tax, some amount of consulting, IFC, like internal financial controls, etc. So the exposure was quite in different areas, so which also allowed me to explore my interest and see, if I really want to specialize or how do I want to go about it. So in brief, like this is what, the kind of exposure I got in articleship looked like.
Okay. And a follow-up question to that, did a mid-sized firm articleship experience impact your career ahead in any way? Like there is this notion that you have to have had your articleship done from a big four firm to get the best of the opportunities. So, I mean, did that have any impact on you?
In my experience, not at all. Because see, when you just, qualify your CA examinations, you are fresh to the workforce. Even the employers and the interviewing you, they know that. So you've qualified your CA examinations, which itself shows that, okay, you have some basic amount of understanding of the subjects and the things which you are studying. So more than the brand at this stage, when you're just starting off with your job. So I think even when you say impact your career, it's more your impact your first job, because that's where the articleship actually plays a significant role. So again, so coming back to the point that more than the brand, I feel it's more the skill set that you develop in your articleship firm which matters. And that can come from any firm, be it a big four, small size, sole proprietor, or mid-sized firm. So because, like the kind of skills, like for example, what is your aptitude for learning? How do you respond to situations? If you don't know something, what would be your, next step? You would research on something. So these are the kind of skills that will actually you bring to the job, which in my opinion is relevant. And that can come from any kind of a firm. So in my opinion, the size of the firm, and at least at this stage, when you're starting out, should not really impact a lot. And just to add to that, one more point, in fact, so in the ABG FLP program where I'm currently employed, all of the people who got selected with me, like we have 5 of us, all of us had done an articleship from mid-sized firms across India. So I think that further answers your question.
Yeah, that seals the question.
Yeah.
All right. So now you are a freshly qualified CA, having secured an All India rank. So was there a particular career path you had envisaged for yourself? Had you thought through the domains you wanted to explore initially? I ask this because lately there are a lot of domains which are available for a freshly qualified CA to venture into. So there's this pressure of making the right choice for yourself. There's this pressure of having clarity about what you want to do in your career, what you want to pursue, which area you want to go into. So what was the case with you?
Correct. So honestly, I was just as confused as any freshly qualified CA would be, with these variety of choices, variety of career choices. You're just like, you're just after CA exams, you're thrown in the sea and you don't know really where to swim. So that's exactly the situation. So, and it's like you're still just basking in the fact that, okay, I've just qualified my CA exams and people are going to call me a CA, and then you're suddenly asked to choose between something. So that, of course, was a very confusing phase. And I think that's a phase which every student will go through. So firstly, if someone's going through that, I think you're normal, because that's something everyone will go through. But coming to how I dealt with it, I think, see, like we have just finished our articleship. So we shouldn't really make up a mindset very soon that I want to specialize in something or this, because we are still at a very fresh stage where we should explore things. So, I know a lot of people come with the mindset that I want to get into this or I want to get into that, and they just constantly only look for opportunity in that area. So my mindset was just go with the flow. I mean, if there is some opportunity which excites you and, it's just something different or something new, I mean, let's just take it up and see where it takes you. So ABG FLP also was one such really great opportunity which came my way, and I just went with the flow. And I mean, it's a really good experience so far. So it's like, I mean, obviously people have a mindset that I want to go into that field, but it's just that go with the flow and, evaluate opportunities and make the best use of that, rather than, only restricting your mind too early that I want to do only this, I want to do only that. So that is, what I mean, that's how I dealt with it. I was just like, go with the flow, honestly, in a very nutshell.
Yeah, so it's okay to be confused. It's okay to not have clarity. I mean, that's just normal.
Yeah, I think that's just a part and parcel after qualifying your CA examinations. I found very few people who were totally clear कि यार CA के बाद यही करना है. I mean, hats off to those people, but it takes time to build clarity.
Yeah, you learn through your journey and you get to know yourself through this journey which you take.
And if you take up an opportunity, I mean, it's not like you're stuck with that for life. So if you don't like it, you can always look for a change or, do something again, which come back to your interest and see what you want to do. It's just Absolutely. That, don't restrict yourself so early. That's just my, take on it.
Right. Okay, great. So now moving on to Aditya Birla Group's flagship leadership program. So how did that happen? If you can just give us a brief about what the program entails. And I'm sure being a ranker, you would have had, floods of opportunities. So why did you, happen to choose this over anything else?
Yeah. So I'll just take you through the program and how it's structured. So basically, this program is a part of the banner of Aditya Birla Group leadership programs. So that program further has 3 subsets under that. One of them is the finance leadership program, which is for CA rank holders. The second one is a general management leadership program, which is for MBA pass outs. And the third one is an HR leadership program, which is for HR MBAs. So these are the 3 buckets under which the program typically functions. So talking about the finance leadership program, the way it worked out was, just after qualifying your CA exams, so they send out like an interview, date and time, and interview letters for this program. So, I mean, I think now that things have changed given the circumstances and the scenario. So earlier they called us all to a particular location, like I think some hotel or something. And then the interview process was structured in 3 rounds. And even before, in fact, even before the interview starts, you have an assessment to be given, which is like a behavioral assessment to be given online. So that's more around questions like what would you do in a given situation and how would you respond. So to understand how good a cultural fit are you to the organization. That's a non-evaluative assessment, honestly. So it's more to see the fit. Now, coming to the interview, the way that happens was, things have again changed. So just, talking about what was there during my time. So we had a group discussion in the first round. So the group discussion was a case study based group discussion. So they gave you like a case study and a list of companies, where you had to invest. So each one was given 2 minutes to speak on, according to them, what would be the priority of investments. Each company had different characteristics, different objectives, then, accordingly, how would you allocate the funds? And then as a group, you had to arrive at a consensus of what would be the, investing priority. Which one would you invest in first, second, third? So that order had to be decided as a group. So that was what the group discussion come case study, thing was about. After that, there were 2 more technical rounds. The second one was a very general round. In fact, based on what you've written on your CV or just general some financial related questions and very I think basic questions to test some subjects which you studied in CA Final. And that is also very subjective. It would vary from person to person. Then the third round was again, it was a technical behavioral round to see how good you're a fit. So it would be just general questions like what would you do in such a situation or how would you react? And also some questions on general aptitude, like, you have these things and what would be the probability in such a situation. So something like as simple as that. And that was the final round. So there were around 100 candidates, and they selected 5 to 6 people for the position under the ABG FLP program. So that was what the interview process and the criteria looked like. Now coming to your question of why ABG and why this program. So management training programs sounded interesting because the very fact that they give you an exposure in different areas and you have the liberty to explore different functions and different domains within the first year, when, as we discussed, you're anyway so confused, kya karna kya hai. So that way it was a good opportunity to explore, and I think it worked out really well for me. So yeah.
Okay, great. Sounds interesting. So if you can just tell us a bit more about the initial management trainee days. What projects did you get to perform as a leadership associate?
Yeah. So these management trainee days were, in fact, one of the best days. It's like a corporate honeymoon, as some people call it. So just to take you through the stints which I had, the program has 3 stints of 4 months each, and you have like a corporate social responsibility stint at the end of year 1. So this is broadly what the stints look like. My first stint was with a shared service center. It's like a newly started company within ABG. So I had to set up a pricing model and recommend a pricing strategy from scratch. So this was my first stint, and based on the payback period and based on what the operating cost of a company is and what is the purchasing power of the users. So based on a couple of criteria, I had to recommend a pricing strategy. So it was a really good chance because just 4 months into the job and I got to present to a lot of senior management. So thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was a newly started company, so it was like a mix of a startup come MNC experience. So this is what the first stint looked like. The second stint was based out of US. So that was another very exciting opportunity. So that was with Novelis, which was Hindalco's subsidiary. So at that time, Novelis had acquired Alaris. So a lot of, my stint was with the global controllership team there. So my project was more about, enabling the financial integration between Novelis and Alaris, suggesting process improvements and a lot of other controllership activities which just came the way. And the third stint was back in Mumbai with the group corporate finance team. So that was basically an M&A kind of a stint. So it was like evaluating targets and peer comparisons and valuations, making some investor pitches. So this is what the third stint looked like broadly. And after all of this, as I mentioned earlier, we had a CSR stint. So this was again a very, very fun stint, and totally something which was off the work. So like we have manufacturing companies, right? Hindalco and Ultratech. So they have units located in a lot of remote areas within India. So all of us, the whole cohort of the ABG FLP, we were divided into small groups of 3 to 4 people, and we were sent to different villages around India. Actually, villages won't be the right word, different plant locations around India. So there, and we have a theme every year for this kind of a social responsibility stint. So our theme was water conservation. So we literally went to those plant locations and spoke to villagers, and understood what makes them water positive, where the water is actually missing, and how can you improve the situation. So it was a very different and very, very enriching experience that way, and a very on the ground kind of an experience. So this is what the first year looked like. So very exciting, and every 4 months there was something really new to look forward to. So great experience.
Could you imagine a chartered accountant not working out of office and going to the ground, experiences
I
what
know,
happens
right?
at a plant? I mean, what an experience to have.
Yeah,
That's
it
really
was
great.
very fulfilling, like really satisfying. So great experience.
Great. So then once you complete your 12 months of management trainee stint, you are allocated a particular role in one of the Aditya Birla Group's companies. So what is it that you are, employed in currently, if you can tell us?
Yeah.
So how does a particular day, look like in your life as a leadership associate?
Okay. So it'll be difficult to generalize what a day would look like, since I think every day looks quite different. So I can just cover, broadly the areas which maybe I'm working in. So firstly, I'm working right now with Ultratech in their corporate finance division. So it's been almost 1.5 years since I've been working here. And so it has a lot of core finance and a great deal of, like the CFO's office kind of a work. So say it has some elements of financial reporting, valuations, like you're reviewing valuations, or some internal restructuring is happening. A good understanding on treasury also, like for example, the kind of instruments which are used to hedge the cash flows. So it gives a good understanding on that. Then some really great financial process transformation projects which keep happening. So that gives a good knowledge in terms of how tech and finance can be integrated. So that was again a very new and exciting experience to look forward to. And then a couple of investor relation activities as well. So being a listed company, there are a lot of frequent interactions with investors. So preparing for those investor meets and possible questions that could come up. So that is again a kind of work which comes. And then of course, some kind of a peer comparisons and benchmarking work also. So, how do we perform with respect to our peers? And lastly, this is also quite an important aspect. Analyzing the cash flows and working capital management. So especially in COVID times, this was a very, very important activity, because where cash flows, I think, decide the future of every business. So evaluating cash flows was like a very regular and important activity. And it gave a very good understanding in terms of, where exactly the cash is blocked and how it can be released in a business. So these were broadly the areas. And of course, all of this gave a very good business understanding. I'm still giving a business understanding, actually. I'm still with that role. So yeah, broadly, these are the areas which I've looked at so far in this function.
One question, which comes to my mind, which we did not discuss previously, that we want to cover in this interaction, but from this particular answer, I feel you are in a position to break this myth and answer this question. So jobs in the consulting domain are in huge demand. It is actually a talk of the town. There's this thing that industry jobs get boring, mundane after a point, since things get routine, repetitive. You're working for the same company, same industry. So do you really think that is true? Have you experienced that? Because what I heard in your previous answer, even though working for the same company, same industry, you've had various stints in different verticals or domains, you can say. So is this really true that industry jobs do get boring or mundane after a point?
Okay, so you can say that might be true to one extent, but again, a disclaimer, it's very, very subjective. Because for instance, if you just talk about, say, a management training program, okay, so they have a rotation every 2 years. So maybe by the time you actually get monotonous or you get bored and everything, you have an option to opt for a new role, because you get to, rotate yourself within the same company or same group after every 2 years. But if you just talk about the industry in general, because being in the industry, you are totally associated with a particular company. So you actually have some tasks like, tracking the profitability or building some MIS reports. And that is something which does happen monthly or quarterly. So these things, if you keep doing over a very, long period of time, and you stay for a very long period of time in that role, then I think the monotony does set in somewhere. So maybe the key to actually breaking that would be, to pushing yourself to get a rotation somewhere. If you want to stay in the industry, of course, to getting a rotation, or, getting a new profile within that same function. So of course, answering your question, it does get monotonous if you stay in that work for a very long time. But again, there are ways to break that too, and you can always explore different areas and functions.
All right. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, you have to push yourself and explore many other areas, because if you are in a corporate, there are obviously different roles which, as a CA, you can pursue. So maybe you can opt for new roles and try out different things. Being in the same organization.
Exactly, because if you are in such a big organization, it does a lot of things apart from just what you are currently in. So you can always try and look out for something different.
Right. Okay. So now moving on, Sonakshi, in my short experience of say 1.5 years working in the industry, I've realized that unless you add some unique value to the table, it is really difficult for you to be recognized and move up the ladder. Like, you're in a team of people who are in their 30s and maybe above and are far more experienced than you. And you, as the current age CA, are expected to maybe outing them, or let's say present ideas which are really unique. So how does one cope up with that? How do you best work in an environment, in a team which is full of domain experts and senior to you? Because I'm sure you would have interacted with a lot of senior management while in your management training stint and now as well.
Correct. So that's a very good question, in fact, and especially since in industry, a lot of people are elder to you. So they'll suddenly see, a youngster coming with a unique idea, and why should listen to him? That's a general instinct. So I think, in my opinion, the ways to overcome that would be, if you have anything to present or something unique, back it with data, and have your analysis completely correct. So even if someone has questions like why this, why that, you are prepared to answer all of that. So if you have an answer to every question and you are able to back it up with sufficient evidence, then there is no reason someone will not listen to you. Because the only reason maybe someone would think, this is not going to work, or this is not really holding sustainable, is probably because, they think that there is no base to it. So if you establish a solid base and everything you present has some logic to it, then I think there is no reason why that idea should not be taken ahead. So that's my take on this.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Your age or maybe your experience shouldn't matter if you're able to back up your idea and present your idea in a way which is beneficial to the organization. So the management, in fact, will be really proud to have you and hired you if you are able to fulfill their expectations. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So in fact, just to, quote an example here. So even like, for example, in my current role, so if some things I felt were, happening in a very long way, or, they were taking a lot of time unnecessarily. So then maybe in that case, I would just come up with some solution in which maybe we can, improve the process. So if you kind of present that to the management stating, why this new process can be taken, then of course they'll have no issue with it.
Right. And that is the reason that you've been hired and you're being paid such a huge sum, is to think differently than the other batch of employees who are working with you. So, yeah.
That's just really kind of you.
And also, I feel that we have been habituated, not to generalize things, but we've been habituated in a way where in our articleship, which is counted as, say, a work experience of sorts, we are doing a lot of other things alongside, say, our studies, managing our college, etc. So we just go there and we perform our roles because it has to be done. I've seen a very few, chartered accountants while in their articleship who have pushed themselves and taken the efforts to do something different or to correct something which is wrong. If you are an article, maybe today you do something, tomorrow and another article will come out, do the same thing and just go. So it makes you replaceable. So here now in the industry, in the corporate, it is up to you to add some value to the table, be different, and make yourself worthy. So what you said truly makes sense. Yeah. Now the last question, maybe if you can throw some light on how can one upskill himself or herself to grow and maybe stay relevant in today's competitive world.
I think there is really no one secret to that. But if I had to just generalize it, it would be maybe firstly, each one's journey and aspirations is different, and each one's skill set, what they already have, is very different. So it's just understanding maybe what you think you can improve on, and understanding where you think that this skill is missing or this is not there. Accordingly, you update yourself. But one thing which I feel is you should constantly be reading about what's happening around you. So if you're in any job, maybe as simple or as basic as accounting or tax, so then just reading about how other companies are dealing with something, or how other companies are dealing with such accounting situations. So just being updated with what's happening in peers around you. I think that is one skill which will really help you to open your perspective on approaching situations.
Right. Don't restrict yourself just to the job and the role which you are doing. You have to keep yourself updated with, almost all of the curriculum which we studied during our CA course.
Yeah, and I think that's just like a given for a CA. So
yeah. Totally agree to that. Thanks a lot, Sonakshi, for all your time. I'm sure I myself feel enriched, and I have learned a lot of things from this short conversation with you. And our viewers will definitely feel the same. So thanks a lot for your time, Sonakshi.
Thank you so much, Harshit, for inviting me. And in fact, if anyone else also has any queries, so just feel free to reach out. Thanks a lot for hosting me. My pleasure.